Hey agave lovers, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lucas and Happy New Year! Here we are in sunny California. It's been pretty nice the last couple of days, so couldn't be happier. We're expected to get some more rain tomorrow, but we have a nice weekend ahead, so we have that really to look forward to. So I hope that you've had a wonderful time home with your family. Perhaps you had a nice vacation. Maybe you didn't have a vacation, maybe you're still on vacation. Regardless, thanks for tuning in. I really do appreciate that. So I want to talk a little bit today about, we'll call this part 2 of weed mitigation. And I wanted to address some of the comments from my last video. Thanks so much for sharing your opinions. I really do appreciate that, especially your insights from people who have done this before. Thanks so much for your experience and lending some of your knowledge and passing that along to me and to others like us. So thanks so much for that. I'm happy to report that the mitigation efforts that I did, what is it, about 2.5, almost 3 weeks ago now, has dramatically improved from years past. So just to get started, yes, it worked. Awesome. I'm so thankful that it's a little, it's kind of heading down in the right direction. It's not something that, like I talked about before, it's not like a cure-all. It's not like something you can do once, leave it alone, and you don't have weeds anymore. I didn't expect that, and after seeing what the results are, yeah, I still have a little bit more work to do. But the most important thing that I wanted to kind of talk about is it going to make my life down the road a little easier with respect to weeds? And the answer is yes, for sure. Some of the comments that I got that I want to talk about were fantastic. And with respect to people talking about, hey, when you turn the soil over, and this I know with doing other things, not necessarily weed mitigation for my pathways and things like that, but just in general, especially in the garden, when you turn soil over, you're just going to give the other weed seeds in the soil more opportunity to be exposed to light and to water and things like that. And yes, I 100% agree with you. But on the pathways, this is all imported soil. This is not native soils. This soil hasn't been introduced to seeds year after year after year. This is all new soil. This is stuff that I will import every year or two. So on the areas that I did it to, for the most part, is all new imported DG, decomposed granite. And so that I'm not so worried about years and years of collecting seeds just because this was imported soil. But I did do the same mitigation efforts to the native dirt that I have in the backyard. And our native soil here it's clay. It's horrible. I mean, if you have roses and things like that, it's a wonderful soil for a lot of things out there. But nothing that I grow will do well in really thick, hard, clay-packed soil. And that's what we have here. So on the areas that I do have the native clay soils, I still scrape things away, and I didn't rake it as much because it is pretty hard soil, but I did scrape the areas. And you can see it's night and day in terms of the difference. Will that come back to haunt me in a couple of months? Possibly, but I don't see it. Like I'll show you soon the difference between what I scraped and what I didn't. It's a significant difference. And the biggest difference, which I was aiming for, is on my pathways on the DG, the soils that I have imported recently. So that's where I want to try to mitigate as many weeds as I can, just to make my life a little easier down the road. What are some of the other comments? Some of the other comments are, just use Roundup. I mean, I know we can all use Roundup, and it's a pretty easy thing to kind of do. But I mentioned in the past, I'm not going to use Roundup So I have kids, you know, pets and things like that. And I grow herbs within some of my patches of agaves. I have edibles that I grow throughout the yard that we use in cooking and other things. So I don't really want to use kind of harsh chemicals and things like that. So I'm going to talk more about those mitigation, actually not mitigation, but just killing weeds a little later. We don't have too many that are, you know, tall, because a couple of other comments too are addressing some of the issues that even, you know, my wife and kids have, which is, you know, it looks so pretty right now. Just leave it, just let it all go. It looks really pretty, nice and green, nice velvety kind of carpet. And I agree, it looks great right now. But I'm the one that has to be out here in the springtime and early summer pulling all of these weeds out. And that's why I want to do my best to try to mitigate that and make my life later a little easier. I think that's what we all want. We all want to try something that will just make our time in the garden a little more useful and purposeful on down the road. And we don't want to all be just bending over our gardens and weeding for weeks on end. And that's just all I'm trying to do here. And so far, so good. I am going to do another round of scraping and raking that I think will even help even more. Even though the one time that I did it, I think I could probably let it go, and I'm just going to have less weeds. And that's kind of the best that I'm hoping for right now. I'm not expecting any results of such that I do this once and I don't have to worry about it. I know that this is going to be a process, and so on. I don't want to be too repetitive, so I just kind of want to get into showing you some of the areas in the backyard, and then maybe a little bit of me actually raking and hoeing, just to show a little bit more of that process. And I'm standing in the front yard right now. This is not an area that I've mitigated. This is an area that I've left alone on purpose, because this area right here on this pathway behind me, and probably can't see it back here, maybe you can in some of the greenery areas. These are areas that I don't weed. There's, in this area here, I don't know the name of it, but it's kind of like a nice little ground cover that has blown into the yard and since sort of taken over. But it's not in a bad way. It's not in a very invasive way where it comes up into my patches here. It's just on the pathways here, and it looks quite nice as we move into spring. Kids love it. It's a nice sort of velvety green thing, and it doesn't get too high. It stays pretty low. Not this, but this here. And it's sort of, yeah, just a short little ground cover. And that's not what I'm talking about with respect to what I'm trying to prevent. What I'm trying to prevent is, I don't know, if you're in Northern California, Central Valley, California, and you're driving along 580 or I-5 or 80, and you're looking on the sides of the highways in late spring, and you see these weeds that are 5 feet tall, just completely covering the sides of the freeways, that is what we have here. And that is the areas around the pathways that I am trying to mitigate. And that's what I'm trying to prevent. I know the term weed is a very broad term. Essentially, it's the things in the yard that I don't want to be here. And we get a mix of native grasses and things like that that just will be absolutely crazy out of control come spring. And another thing that I want to talk about with respect to the weeds here is that when we do get a lot of weeds, that we have a really narrow window of time that we have to kind of intervene in their growth. Because if they start getting kind of out of control, things happen, I get busy or something like that, and I can't get out there, come March and April, when the rains really start to subside and the temperatures start to increase, the native soils, the clay soil that we have here, gets really hard. It's like concrete. So when you're just trying to pull a weed out, it's extremely difficult to do after the rains have stopped. A lot of times the roots will stay in, part of the plant will stay in, and it'll just come back and grow again. That's what I'm trying to prevent. I want to try to just make my life, again, a little easier down the road. So the native soils here are just really difficult to contend with, which is the reason why I've imported so much soil. But again, we are on a corner lot here, and this faces southwest, so we get all of this wind that just blows all of the weeds into the property. So I'm going to take you in the backyard now, and we're going to look at some of the differences. I'm not going to touch anything yet. And this is what I did about 3 weeks ago, so we'll see the differences there. And then I'll kind of do that process again to kind of show you a little bit of that. So let's go ahead and go into the backyard, and I'll show you some of that. I should mention also that I may take a look at what I have in the backyard a little more closely. I haven't really looked at it too closely yet. And if I see that it's something that is really working and beneficial, I'm going to apply it to some of these areas over here in the front yard, my pathways. Again, just not here. And I have so many weeds here in between where the steps are that I'm going to let a lot of this stuff go for now, because I have a ton of California poppies coming up. And it seems like it might be a super bloom year. There are way more than usual. So I'm gonna let this stuff go a little bit longer, just so that I know what I'm pulling is a weed and what are some native flowers and things like that. So let's go ahead and take a look in the yard, and we'll see what we see. Thanks. And here we are. This is the first side that I wanted to show you. This is on the east side of the house. And this is kind of what I refer to as the orchard, where I have 3 apple trees. And really the only green that I have are the California poppies coming up here in the grow area for the tree, and some California poppies popping up right here as well. This is typically completely green this time of the year. This is just full of weeds and other things that I just don't want here. And after just hoeing and raking just one time, this has done such a great job. I mean, if you could see it in years past, this would be just completely green this time of the year. Here it is. We're a couple of days into January, into the new year, and February is when our spring starts. So this is typically this is where the dog run is here, and the dogs use this area as a bathroom. I have it fenced off over here, and a lot of times this is just a trail from where the dogs are running, and then it's just green, and then the dogs kind of make their own trail. But right now, so far so good. It has done such a good job. I'm going to come through here and do it one more time. I do have some weeds kind of popping up in the shady areas from the runoff from the trees. But other than that, I probably don't even need to go back over it one more time, but I will, just because I'm going to do it with the other areas. So plus I just want to show you this process. Let's go ahead and take a look at the other areas. I'm not sure if the sun is on it yet, but we'll go over there and take a look. So here we are in the backyard, and I want to show you what this looks like before I come in here a second time and rake through. You can see where I scraped things out in the pathway, and I think this is a really good area here to kind of show you the differences between when I haven't done anything. Look at these weeds. This all will get very tall if I leave it go, versus where I have done some mitigation efforts here. So it's a big difference. It's enough for me to already know that my efforts already have been a success, even though limited, because I do have to come back in here and do it more. But I mean, this is going to save me so much time in the spring. And you can really see up here through the pathway in this area here, especially I'm looking at this through the lens of the past, and I know what this usually looks like this time of the year. This is just completely green normally, and it gets really bad, really tall, hard to maintain, because underneath I only have a thin layer of DG, and underneath it is a layer of clay, old soil, and it gets really bad with weeds. You can see here, hopefully you can see it, but this area down here, I haven't done any mitigation So I left all of this as is, just for myself, that I can come back and, look here to see the difference between of what I've done and what I haven't. So obviously, if this is a success, so far it is, I will do the same thing to everything next year, so that I can be as weed free as possible. Let me show you over here where some of the biggest differences are. Again, you can see a clear delineation line between where I scraped and raked versus where I didn't. We grow a lot of herbs and things down in here, so I just left this all go because we get tons of native flowers and things in here. So I left all this, scraped all of this out, and you can see around here, this is typically so inundated with weeds that you can't normally tell where the cutoff for artificial grass is, where it meets the pathway. And right now you totally can. So this was just once, and I'm really happy with the results so far. Even in here, you can see where some of the weeds I have weeds, but most of this actually is native flowers and wildflowers that are coming up that we've planted over the years. A lot of herbs and things that we grow here around the planter boxes. But I mitigated, I scraped all of this out, and man, I'm really happy with the results. It's going to look even better after I do it a second time. And all the way up the trail, this is typically just completely green. Neighbors, they don't have a traditional lawn, but they kind of let it go. So a lot of the weeds will grow taller than the fence, and they'll blow over. So this area here is usually really, really bad with weeds. But so far, so good. Let me run the rake through here again one more time, and maybe I'll show you a little bit of that process, and then we'll take a look at the final results. Let's do that now. For me, just turning this over a couple of times here, I probably could have left it after just once, but I'm going to go ahead and do it twice. The other areas I may have to do 3 times, but for me, again, it's worth having to deal with all of these weeds later. So definitely worth it. And again, my yard is probably, my circumstances are going to be a little different than yours, especially with respect to the imported soil. So just take that into consideration. I can completely understand how this may actually make things worse if you're dealing with the native dirt. And I took that into account, but I decided to, just still give it a try and see. And so far, I like the results. And for my yard, I'm going to keep doing this year after year, because I think this is something that I can see myself doing. That is, again, not a lot of effort, and saving me a lot of time later on. I'm also a commercial photographer, so my business really starts to pick up in the spring, and in the springtime is when I'm typically busy with work and things like that. So if this will allow me to focus more on my actual work, then I'm all for it. So around the holiday time, I'm not that busy with my work. So that is why I'm kind of doing these things when I have time and opportunity to work in the yard. So I'm going to use that to my advantage. And I think that this is the right way to go. Okay, so here we are. This is after hoeing and raking and then sweeping with the push broom. And I couldn't be happier with the results. Seeing compared to what this used to look like in the past at this time of the year, exceptional results, and I couldn't be happier. So yeah, I'm going to keep doing this. So far, so good. And come springtime, this area here with the gold vines gets really hard and compressed like concrete. So for me, it's really important to get the weeds out of here now so that I don't have to expend all that energy later on. The pathways are a little easier just because I can run a rake or whatever through. But this area here is really hard to weed come springtime. Well, we've had a chance to kind of compare and contrast the differences between the mitigation efforts that I did a few weeks back compared to some of the areas that I left. And to me, it's proof that this process does work. It works for my situation. Perhaps it won't work for yours. And you probably, it may be you've already have done this and decided that this isn't something that either one doesn't work for you in your yard and the kind of landscaping that you have and your soil and all of the things that goes into making our properties unique. Maybe you've tried this and it just doesn't work for your property. I can say for sure that it does work on this particular property where I live. So I look forward to doing this again next year. Why do I look forward to it? Well, because it's one less thing that I have to do this spring. And it is a ton of work coming out here and de-weeding all of this area out here. Again, as we move into spring, the soil does get really, really hard and impacted. And it is a pain to get these weeds out of here. Even if I use mitigation efforts later on, which I'll show you with the vinegar and the solutions that I use, a lot of times, you know, it kills the foliage, but it doesn't kill the plant. And that plant can come back and start growing again. So this was my attempt to try to prevent all that work later on. And so far, I think with what I've seen, it is working. I will have a part 3 to this. I want to visit this maybe in maybe 4 to 6 weeks to show the progress and to see if really we can call this a success or not. Because right now we're still in the early stages. We still have a lot of rain coming. And I don't have enough experience just from a few weeks to really declare victory yet. But we're almost there. We're almost there, and so far so good. And with that said, I just want to thank you again for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Happy New Year to everyone out there. And thanks for your continued support. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. That really, really helps out the channel. And I do appreciate you stopping in. Feel free to drop me a comment. I know I didn't realize weeds can be so controversial, but I think, you know, everyone has their own experiences and everyone has their own expertise. And I will say it again, I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert. I am an expert commercial photographer. I'm an architectural photographer. So all of my schooling and training is in. This is a hobby. This is a pastime of mine that I've thoroughly enjoyed. And I can attribute some successes and have some expertise through the narrow window of the plants that I grow in the area that I grow. So I do know a lot about the plants that I have and a lot about the landscaping and the climate where I live. Post a comment. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to help you with your growing your dry garden, and as long as it's within my wheelhouse, I'll do my best. Again, thanks again for tuning in, and I really look forward to seeing you again next time. Thanks, take care, and have a happy week. Have a happy weekend ahead. Thanks.